Hello. It is the last episode of the season. It has been almost a full trip around the sun, and I'm just better looking, and you're just older. It's funny how that happens.
I feel
This is the Ball Card Show, the sports podcast.
for the Sports Collector.
I'm Jason Otero.
I'm Gary LeMaster.
And we're glad to be here.
And you're really good at throwing an insult out and then making sure you just jump the shark before I can respond to it.
It's called a parry. You should look it up in boxing. Speaking of boxing, aren't you glad that you got to see that Tyson trying not to fall down thing?
It was so disappointingly obviously staged that it was hard to watch.
The only part that I'm not so sure about, Tyson's legs were not underneath him the whole fight.
Well, after the first two rounds, I agree. He was wiped.
Like trying not to fall down.
However, in the first two rounds,
he didn't really punch.
There were four different times where he could have lights out, and without even really doing it, much more than turning his torso.
Yeah.
He could have turned the lights out on Logan Paul. One of them, you almost saw him realize it, and his instinct was, I need to throw this punch, and then he stops himself. Like, Logan Paul has a really bad habit. He did it a lot in the Tommy Fury fight, where he will throw his right and get off balance forward, and his head comes down, where he's almost like looking down at the mat as he throws it.
Yeah.
Or Jake, not Logan, Jake. And it leaves his jaw wide open. Mm-hmm. And if you're inside of his guard, it's just a quick right cross. Or a little uppercut, and it's lights out. And that happened four times in the first two rounds, and Tyson's inside the guard, and he just kind of lets that go off of his ear, and then he just doesn't throw the punch, and he just steps backwards. Yeah. And one time he does throw a punch, and he realizes about halfway through the punch he can't stop the punch, so you can see him pull it and just kind of tap Jake Paul's chin. He'd have knocked his ass clean into next week with a full throw of that punch.
You know what he did catch? A big bag of cash.
Well, yes, he did catch that. And
probably what they say, 20 million?
Oh, yeah, plus his take of the gate. I mean, the gate was 18.3.
Yeah.
Just the gate.
That's not bad, you know.
I hope Netflix learned some lessons.
Oh, that was a disaster. They've got live games this year. Christmas?
Yeah, that's a problem because if they aren't ready for their servers aren't ready, like it was brutally hard to watch that
Keep
fight.
Charging everybody else more. You better deliver.
Yeah, no kidding.
Now, the Brady roast was great. That was fantastic.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think there were 600 million people trying to watch the Brady roast.
No, there were not. There were not.
The two fights right before the Paul Tyson fight were fantastic. The women's fight was fantastic.
That girl got robbed too.
She did. She absolutely got robbed.
I love their answer. Like, you think the headbutt was intentional? Yeah, she does that in every fight. It's definitely intentional. I don't know why she keeps getting away with it. But
well, and not only that, I thought that just on the points, the other girl should have won. It was a great fight. And the fight right before that was a really good fight too. The opening fight was a joke, and the last fight of the night, unfortunately, was a joke. But those two actual title bouts were really good fights.
Yeah. It's not good for the sport of boxing what's happening. I know that.
Well, no, it's becoming a WWE style entertainment spectacle instead of an actual sport, which is why real fighters. I was dying laughing because Jake Paul after the fight, he's like, "Your next Canelo, if he gets in a ring with Canelo, he might die."
Yeah, I hope it happens.
Well,
not that he dies.
Canelo's answer was, "I'm not interested."
Yeah.
It would not last 2 rounds.
Yeah.
It would be an absolute technical destruction of Jake Paul if he got in a ring with an actual. He's only fought one real fighter, and he got beat. Mm-hmm. Like, that's it. Everybody else he's fought has been a joke.
Being like, Skeens, take me seriously, dude. I can hit off of you.
Yeah.
I can hit off of you.
Yeah.
The only difference is I can't bring Skeens a bag of money.
Right, to do that.
Yeah.
So unless you hit that patch card.
Yeah, that would do it.
Then
you want to jump into there now?
Oh, yeah, that's a good segue,
right, so
unintentional segue.
These bounties, if you're unaware, have been it's something that Fanatics has been more intentional about, and with releasing these like unique time. What would I say? So it started out with like there've been bounties for a very long time, meaning someone wants a card, whether it's a company, a shop, a collector, and they're going to offer a bounty on it.
Well, let's talk about the evolution of Topps Chrome Update.
That's not where I was heading.
Well, it matters to this.
Let's go ahead with your thought first.
Well, it matters to this.
Because it's more important than what I was saying, Gary.
That's not true.
Go ahead.
So Topps Chrome update, if you're new to the hobby, you may not realize this, but until last year, this was a retail only product.
Yep.
It has never been a hobby product until last year. And retail up until 2 years ago was $29.99 for a Topps Chrome update box retail. Last year, 2 years ago, they went to $44.99. This year they're pushing $100. And then hobby, they launched last year, and their big marketing ploy with it was these debut patches. And we saw some pretty crazy bounties last year with the Volpe one, which didn't get hit until earlier this year. And then this year, the big bounty is Skeens, and I'll let Jason finish his thought there. I just wanted to make sure everybody kind of understood this is a brand new thing to the hobby with Topps Chrome update being so sought after.
Yes, and it was really smart. One thing that they are figuring out how to do is to create Willy Wonka's golden ticket when they're trying to accept when it comes to Mercury. But that's what blows my mind. So compare these two products. How is there something so massive in Chrome update and then something that they're charging $10,000 for didn't have
licensing?
Well, I understand, but
if Mercury was licensed, it wouldn't be dropping I had a guy come up to me at a show 3 weeks ago with a box of Mercury sealed, just trying to get what he paid for it back.
That's not happening.
He's not. I was like, I'd be at $4,200, man. He was like, really? I was like, yeah, breakers are breaking it at $7.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you.
Yep. He messed up. But anyway, so the Pirates had this bounty out for the Skeens MLB debut. Had a couple of you message asking why this is a big deal with a patch card. That MLB debut doesn't just mean, oh, here's a rookie 1 of 1. This is the actual patch on their actual jersey on their actual first game worn.
Yes.
So when it comes to there being a patch, probably the most unique. I guess you would have other situations where it's like if this was from Freddie Freeman's game worn, walk off
and
grand slam,
and
right?
Outside of the higher end products and heritage, weirdly, it's about the only game use stuff you're going to get.
Yeah. Yep. So that's why there's a little bit of a chase on it. The Pirates recently put out a bounty. I'm sure many of you already saw this.
It's insane.
Here was their offer. 2 Pirates season tickets right behind home plate for the next 30 years. A softball game for 30, so you and all your friends on the field with coaching from Pirates alumni. Spring training experience. You get a private tour of Pirate City. You get a meet and greet with Paul Skeens, 2 autographed jerseys. You get to take batting practice and warm up with the team, and then other unique experiences. And guess what? If you actually hit that card, basically what that means, you get to call the Pirates and say, I like what you got here, but let's also boom, 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 boom.
I saw a guy.
There will be some Clemente unique pieces coming my way too.
Well, so I saw a guy who laid out the game plan for what to do if you hit this, and I watched it twice because the first time I was like, I don't know, and then I listened to it again. I was like, yeah, I think he's right. So here's your game plan if you get lucky enough to hit this card, because that package that the Pirates offered, assuming that the tickets aren't non-transferable, assuming that you own them and can do with them what you want, that's worth a couple $1 million over time. His plan was this: you hit that card, you immediately call the Pirates and say, hey, I have this card. It's in my possession. I would like 10 days to consider your offer. While I'm considering the offer, part of me considering the offer is I need you guys to reach out to ESPN and get me on the air at ESPN to talk about this card. At which point you go on ESPN. And at that point, you then call Ken Golden, who has also said you need to call us before you do anything with this. Just ask the guy who sold Shohei's ball. And Ken Golden has a little bit of a point there. But then you call Ken Golden and you say, hey, here's the deal. Only way you're running this is if it's 0% commission from me. I get the full sale. You get the buyer's premium. It's lot number 1 in your featured high-end auction. I get $500,000 up front that's non-refundable. Yep. And then I'll let you know if those conditions work for you. I need 3 days, at which point you should be hearing from the big whales. And once you start hearing from the big whales, you just sell to one of them. And if you haven't heard from the big whales, then you take Ken Golden's offer.
So you don't really want seats behind the home plate for the Pirates?
If you're a Pirates fan, if you live in Pittsburgh, sure.
Yeah.
But in general, that seems, because I think at the end of the day, private sale, the card probably does $3 million.
Mm-hmm. So the Ellie was hit this week.
Yep.
Where do you think that, I'm assuming that goes to auction. Are we talking 800 to 1.2, somewhere in there?
I think it's probably more like 5 to 8.
So it just doesn't have the same.
It's all hype. If it had been last year,
mm-hmm.
it's $3 million card.
Yep.
This year, Skeens is the $3 million
mm-hmm.
card. If Jackson Merrill had won Rookie of the Year, he'd have been at 1.5, 1.6.
Yeah.
It's all hype. And people who are complaining, I saw somebody post on Facebook the other day, why are these cards that I bought last year, they're just not worth anything? And then somebody else, welcome to the hobby for the last 40 years, man. If you buy a rookie at his peak thinking that it's just going to keep going up,
yeah,
you're outside your mind.
And their rationale is, well, it's a rookie card.
Yeah. Elliott base Bowman first chromes last summer after he got called up and had his insane first 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Bowman first chromes at shows were selling for $40 a piece raw, as fast as you could put them on your table. Literally as fast.
Mm-hmm.
PSA 10s were doing $300
mm-hmm.
of the base.
Yeah.
The base raws do $5 to $7 now.
Yeah.
Guess what Skeens bases are going to do next year? $5 to $7.
Mm-hmm.
It just is what it is. If you want to buy Skeens stuff, try to get lucky and buy numbered stuff right. I got lucky this last weekend, and I picked up a Father's Day blue paper, numbered to 50, out of Update, for a price that seemed reasonable to me. It's not a price I would not have paid $300 or $400 for that
mm-hmm.
card. I traded into that card for about $130.
Yeah.
Seemed pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
So don't chase hype. I mean, if it's your thing, chase hype, but then don't complain about it. If you're
mm-hmm.
going to buy it at the peak, you're holding it until they become a multi-time All-Star or win multi-MVPs or whatever else.
Yeah. So yeah, there's that. Ellie was hit. It's really gorgeous. Did you pull up the name of the breaker on there? It's fine if you don't.
I didn't.
But someone that hit was it the Chrome Update Superfractor as well? Or
the Topps Chrome Superfractor Auto.
Yeah. Ellie was the same one that hit the MLB debut 101.
I'm looking for it right now.
Seems to be happening from time to time. And again, the two theories are, well, no wonder, because
Hobby Legends was the breaker,
okay.
yeah.
They open a bunch of product, you have a higher chance of hitting something. That's true. Some of these guys are hitting a lot of the big ones. A lot of them. So,
yep.
Let's put a bow as we are wrapping up this season on the 5K challenge. It is time to pay the piper, and as Gary knows, I will pay him when I feel like it. So, two things. One, really fun, and in the first month or two, easy. 5K in 1 year is not an easy undertaking.
No, it's especially
very tough.
We both have a tendency, and we both did it, to, as we got into bigger stuff, if it looked super cool and was super unique, we bought it. I'd have been better off to just keep buying downtowns.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just moving up in downtowns.
Yeah.
But that didn't appeal to me at all. So it was a series of just really cool stuff. And the card that I have right now, it's got a $1,500 tag on it, and it's the National Treasures second year Amon-Ra St. Brown true 1 of 1, none of that white box, black box bullshit, just an actual true 1 of 1. On card auto laundry tag, shield swoosh. It's a gorgeous card. I probably could have taken that when I bought that and bought a Patrick Mahomes downtown and turned it into another Patrick Mahomes. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, just gone that route. But that isn't fun to me. That isn't appealing to me.
So I noticed right around the $400 to $500 mark is when it became a little trickier to find something with margin that is going to be liquid. So like with that Amon-Ra, do I think that's going to sell for you? Yes. When you get more and more unique, then your
pool of
buyer
buyers
pool
gets smaller.
and smaller.
Got a card right now that you just listed on eBay
Yeah.
on consignment for me
Yeah.
that falls into that category.
Yep. Really sweet card. You have to go to the ball card store to check it out. Gold refractor. Allen Iverson. PSA 10. 2005 Topps Chrome.
Jersey numbered.
But yeah, that's the trade-off with that. Is it, you get something that's more unique and more end user. You're going to be waiting a little bit more on that. I ended up at a sale of $525 on that Lamar Jackson that I got for basically $375.
Yep.
That ended up being a nice little flip for me. And honestly, his market spiked and then chilled, so I moved at the right time.
Yep.
I did not find another one. I was actively looking. I've been to a few different card shows, LCSs, Facebook, put in some offers. Another unique thing happened this year as we were doing this is way more than it was spoken of last year, and you saw it with foot traffic. This year has been the first year where I saw a softening of the market and people just not knowing what to do with that. People that were upside down on cards, or and it may not be a lot. They may just be like, I've got to make something on it, but the card's actually worth 100 less. So when you come in at 150 under comps, it was just it was quite a challenge to make that happen.
Yeah.
If we could have integrated trading into that a little bit more, I know that you and I both would have been. You would have probably hit 5. I think I could have gotten to $2 to $3 grand.
Yeah.
In that time frame, implementing trades and all that in there. But nonetheless, I'm the loser. You're the winner.
How much do you owe me?
I owe you $131.25.
I like it.
And I will pay it to you in inventory in the ball card store. You can pick out all the $2 to $4 cards you want, or just let me send you some cash.
Yeah, I'll just take that cash.
Yeah.
I'll just take that cash.
But yeah, fun challenge, enjoyable.
We'll try to come up with something
challenging
for
down
next
the road.
year. It won't be the exact same thing, but we'll try to come up with something for next season that you guys can follow along with too.
Let's talk about next season. So one of the things I wanted to do before we get out of here for the year is talk about maybe some hobby goals for next year for each of us. I know I had a couple in there that are more on the collector side of things. One of them will be, I guess one of them is not, but first thing I want to do is for sure in 2025, I want to finish the 1969 top set. I'm sitting at, I think, right over 50%. I've picked up a couple more stars. I picked up the Tony Perez graded in an 8, which is actually pretty high grade on that set. I'm trying to do 6 and above on stars. The mantle between a 5 to a 6, it jumps by like $600. So I'll have to decide if it's worth it to me, or if I just find a well-presented clean one, which is even harder to find, then I'll do that. The next thing I want to do is force myself to learn a little bit more about the super low numbered market without having to jump in like I'm buying a huge position on a stock or, putting myself in a risky situation. So the way that I'm going to try to do this is in 2025, every month I'm going to buy a one of one. So that could be a $500 card, could be a $1,000 card, could be a $25 card.
Yeah, so it could be a $20 or $30 card.
But what it's going to force me to do is, learn a little bit about that market, keep an eye on it, because I'm somebody that will tell you in a heartbeat, you could give me a monster 5-row box, and I could go through that thing on low end and tell you which cards people think are $1 are worth $5 to $10 to $15. I'm pretty good at that now. I've listed about 30,000 of those. But when we get to super low number stuff, which one of one, this and that, which product do you not want to mess with, which ones are maybe sleepers, which products are, this is a no name, but in a one of one, this card does well. So it's going to force me to learn a little bit. So I'm going to try to do that. I'll keep you posted. I think that'll be good content to talk about as well, what we picked up. But I'm going to try to do a one of one every month next year. What do you got?
I like it. I think my goals are more related around the business side of it. I want to continue to increase the overall value of my inventory, and I want to continue to lean into having unique stuff. Continue to lean into markets that are not as volatile. We both do that. We just do it in different ways. You do it on the low end. I do it on the unique end. From a personal standpoint, collection wise, I've thought about expanding my PC, but if I do, I haven't decided what I want it to be yet. Ken Anderson and Ed Oliver have been it for a while. And it saved me a lot of money with that being it for a while. I've thought about maybe starting a Spencer Steer PC because he's maybe my favorite player in MLB right now. And I should be able to do that pretty on the cheap, but I haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
So for me, it's mostly the business side of things. The kind of my 3 to 5 year goal is to be to the point where I can actually open an LCS. So, that's not a pie in the sky dream. It's a little bit of a pie in the sky dream for here where we are because it's such a saturated market, but it's not out of the question. Yeah. And you guys that are listening to this and that come and see us at shows and support what we do, buy from us, sell to us, you're all a part of that, and it's very much appreciated. I know from a podcast standpoint, we have some goals going into next year, the biggest one being and we've talked about it for a year and just hasn't happened, but is to take this thing video and let you see our ugly mugs live and in color. Yeah, I'll speak for both of us. It's cool.
Yeah, we want to have video up and running, and then on the business side of things, I think I just mentioned I'm almost at 30,000 on inventory with the store. I want to max that out where it still makes sense, which is right around 60,000 cards or 60,000 listings before eBay wants to charge you like $2,000 to go to 100,000, which is not worth it.
Just open a second store at that point.
Yeah. So I have another store that will treat as an overflow. The biggest adjustment I'm going to have to make is emphasis on sourcing. So what I'd like to do is target larger collections that'll carry me through a few months, as I don't mind listing $2 cards, but large enough where there's a few meat and potatoes that get my cash back right away. Even if, let's say, I'm getting back on those bigger cards, what I've got into them.
Well, yeah.
Just hedging my, investment there.
You keep your cash flowing that way. You buy $1,000 collection, you get 10 cards sold quick that cover that $1,000. Now you've got that $1,000 to go buy another collection.
Yeah. And then over the next year, sell, $2,000 $3 cards.
Yeah.
Rinse and repeat. So, so that'll be a big focus for the two. Can we talk about Topps Motif? We forgot to mention.
Oh, yeah, no. I mean, we still got a good bit to talk about. So Jason mentioned earlier, noticing some softening in the market. One of the things that I'm seeing soften really fast, and it's exciting for me that it's happening, and it should be exciting for all of you that it's happening. It won't be exciting for a minute because there will be some short-term pain because people are going to take some losses. Right? There's going to be people who bought singles and they're going to take it in the teeth. I'm sorry that happened to you. You should have been smarter. Topps Motif football, when it released, was cranking out at between $300 and $3,500 a box.
Yeah.
This shit is on blowout cards Black Friday for $7.99, boys. You can buy a case for $3,800.
Yeah.
Wax prices are actually softening. Do I think we are ever going to see the day where flagship hobby boxes of like Prism, well, not Prism, but Topps Chrome going forward, things like that are going to be what they were pre-2020? No, I don't think we're going to have $120 boxes of Topps Chrome hobby. I do think we are going to get to the point where the flagship products are around $200 a box. Yeah. And I think that we are going to get to the point where the mid to higher end products are in the $800 to $1,000 range. And then they'll have one or two like silly high end products. For those of you who aren't aware, pre-2020, National Treasures football was $450 a box. Yeah. Flawless was $800. There is not a world that exists where we should have $10,000 hobby boxes. I guess maybe Transcendent, but even Transcendent back in the day was not $20,000 a box.
Well, and you're buying an experience too.
Yeah. Right? And I do think that that's something that Fanatics may do more of. Like these higher end products may include stuff like that or opportunities at stuff like that because they're trying to tie experience to the collection, which is really smart from a marketing standpoint. But yeah.
But the market is a little bit softer. I didn't think, like when I heard guys who have been collecting for a long time saying that they can't wait for that to happen on the other side of COVID, I couldn't believe the words coming out of their mouth because the market was really hot. But I'm kind of looking forward to it a little bit.
It's just like you think about the housing market. It's very similar in that at a certain point, it just becomes unaffordable for the vast majority of people to participate in. And once that happens, liquidity is gone in the hobby. And when liquidity is gone in the hobby, everything crashes. I would much rather see a softening back to a normalization than a crash. And the reality of it is if you've been around this hobby for more than 3 or 4 years, you understand this has always been a cyclical hobby.
Yeah.
There are booms, there are busts, and there are periods of normalization. The periods of normalization are usually about twice as long as either the booms or the busts. And it's the same cycle every time. There's a boom, then there's a period of normalization, and then there's a bust. And the booms usually last a couple years, and the busts usually last a couple years. And you get 4 or 5 years of normalization in between.
That sounded convincing. I don't know if I agree. I mean, you sounded like that was a TED Talk.
Well,
it was good. That's good.
Go look at the history of it. It's pretty black and white.
I don't feel like looking up periods of normalization ever. I've never Googled that.
Point being that if you're smart and you plan on being around here for a long time, you're doing your collecting during the periods of normalization. You're doing your long-term investment buying during the busts. And then you're waiting to the boom to liquidate and have cash flow to be ready to go for the next period of normalization. Right? Like that's why people who are complaining about where things are now, and then those of us who have been around since long before the last boom go, you guys do realize that while the hobby might be down 50% from 2021, it's still 4 times higher than it was in 2015.
Well, yeah. That's like the prime example of this is people complaining about a PSA 9. You know, it's less than a 10, and how did this happen? And
it's less than raw a lot of times.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's less than a raw. And the reason for that is you probably don't have a card cool enough for that to matter. Or you're not talking about vintage. That's for sure.
Right.
That matters. But when you're talking about a card that there's 10,000 in the pop report and yours is one of the 10,009s and it's a base rookie out of a product that didn't cost much money, like that's how that should be. So look at me, I'm becoming a grumpy old collector. Okay, PSA dropped a big announcement about doing away with this declared value when we sub. I'm more confused now than I was when I first read the article. Can you break that down for me and everybody listening?
I can. So one thing you said there isn't correct. They did not do away with declared values. What they did was they did away with your ability to declare a value less than the maximum for a tier. So say a tier caps at $500. You used to have the ability to go in and do a declared value at $75. If a PSA 10 of a card you're subbing does $75, then that's what you would put in. And so the return shipping to you is based on the insurance value of your submission, right? So if you had 10 cards in your submission that were all a $75 declared value and they all PSA 10, you would be charged return shipping at an insurance rate of $750. Now you're going to be charged at $5,000. So your return shipping is going to be higher, sometimes double or triple, right? And that's what people were losing their mind over. Here's where the brilliance of it is, in my mind, from PSA. And this is why I think it's a very smart move on their part. They are now going to decrease the number of low-value cards being submitted without raising prices. The way they've done that in the past to get their backlog jammed up, unjammed, is to raise prices. Well, now they're making it so that if you submit a $10 card and it gems and is worth $50, it's going to have cost you more to ship it to them, pay them to grade it, and ship it back to you than what it's worth as a PSA 10. They're telling you, stop sending us this stuff. Unless you just want it for your PC, we'll happily grade it, but it isn't going to be worth what you've got into it. So that's what they've done. Now, a lot of guys who submit, say you're like, for me, if I'm submitting at that level, I'm not submitting cards that are worth $75 in a PSA 10. I'm submitting cards that are going to be worth $400 to $500 in a PSA 10. It's still well worth it for me, right? I'm sending cards with a value of $150 to $200 to $300 raw. Well, it's well worth it for me still. A lot of guys when they sub, they just do the full declared value for whatever tier it is. That way they don't have to think about it. But for guys who are doing 100 card low end subs, this is going to be a real kick in the teeth
Right.
from a dollar standpoint. You're
Right.
going to lose 20, 25, 30% of your margin potentially with the way that this is set up. Does that make more sense?
More, yeah.
Okay.
It's really not that much news.
Well, it's news from a bulk sub standpoint. The guys who are going to now see an increase in their business are the bulk subbers who hand deliver and hand pick up.
Yeah.
That's who's going to see an increase in their business. If you want to sub those low dollar cards, don't do it yourself anymore. Send it to a bulk subber who hand delivers and hand picks up.
And then
And hope for the best.
hope that they won't be in, like, for that to work, they're not going to be insuring your delivery of your cards back to you.
Oh, no, they will. Do you think PSA charges actual insurance
No,
prices?
I know
that's
that,
my point.
but how much more are they baking in? Like,
Well, so if you ship something right now, somebody buys a $5,000 card from your store and you ship it to them with $5,000 of insurance, that's going to cost you, what, $60?
yeah, something like that.
Right? Well, PSA was charging you $60 for every single card in the shipment in the range. So if your card's only worth $500, they're still charging you $60,
Yeah.
right? Whereas when you'd send it to a bulk subber, they're going to presumably ship it back to you at the appropriate insurance rate for the package, not just a bulk high number for the package.
Not that big a deal.
It's not that big of a deal for guys like you or me. Guys who are submitting 1,000, 1,200, 1,500 cards a month, big deal.
How much more? Like, so I guess it just depends on what they submit, right?
Yeah, 100% depends on what they submit. But I've seen
So it's the guys
actual
submitting
screenshots, guys submitting 100 low end cards pre this happening.
Yeah.
And the return shipping was like $131.
Right.
And post it was like $380. So it can be a big number if you're submitting a lot. If you're somebody that submits 2-3 cards at a time, it has no effect on your life really at all.
All right. Well, that gets us to the bottom of that.
Yeah, that was the PSA news. You were talking about vintage. I saw a set pop up for sale that I sent you, and you said you had already seen it. You just don't see this pop up too often.
Yeah, this was cool. Yeah.
1952 tops, complete set, all PSA graded. Lowest grade in the set was a 4. They average about a 4.6.
Yeah.
And I didn't think the price was insane. It's $250,000, $249K. That's what the guy wanted. You just don't see things like that come up very often. I'm wanting to say, if I check the PSA set registry, there might only be 5 or 6 full 52 graded sets that exist.
Yeah.
So pretty.
That was
pretty neat
upstate
thing.
New York, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty unique.
A little bit out of my
interesting to see.
budget right now.
Just
but,
a smidge.
You know,
It'd be cool to have though.
that would be.
But you want to talk about taking volatility out of your collection. Something like that, the only way it loses real value is if the entire economy collapses. And if the entire economy collapses, it doesn't matter anyways.
got bigger issues.
You got way bigger issues than how much money you have tied up in sports cards.
Well, nothing like that could happen.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, buddy. I don't have any other notes.
No, I mean, I will, since this is our last episode of the year, give everybody a quick rundown of where I'm going to be the remainder of this year as far as shows go. Next weekend, Saturday, I'm in Pittsburgh. Sunday, I am in Cuyahoga Falls. Back-to-back shows there. Pittsburgh is at the Castle Shannon, and Cuyahoga Falls is the big show at Emilio's Event Center. It's always a really good show, about 160 tables. And Castle Shannon is like 140 tables. So both really good shows. Then I'm on vacation for 2 weeks. Be on a boat.
You're going to be at a show for the big game?
On that Saturday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Got dollars to make, bro.
I guess so.
I got now that will the game be on my phone while I'm sitting there?
Yeah,
absolutely. But no, it's this is a show that I've been on a wait list for a while, and Mark called me and said, "Hey, got a spot for you. You want it?" Yes, sir. So excited to do that. Then I'm on vacation for a couple weeks, and then Christmas happens, and then the Saturday after Christmas, the 28th, I will be at Cincinnati at Winton Road. Normal. I'm there about 6 times a year. I don't do every month, but I do about every other month down there. It's a solid show. They've got some good signers. I want to say it was like Tony Perez and somebody else. assuming Tony's healthy.
He always has a long line.
Yeah. And then January is already completely full. I've got 2 multi-day shows in January and a couple of back-to-backs. It's going to be a very busy month. So
I don't think you mentioned on the pod, but one of the things that you are wanting to do next year is to catch some of the larger regionals.
Yeah, more consistently. I know that like in January, the last weekend of January into the first 2 days of February is the Pittsburgh 600. That's the Washington, PA show.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the biggest one they do every year. It's 600 tables. It's already completely sold out. That show is massive.
If they don't have a traffic jam or a traffic issue.
The first show that I ever did over there was their February show. And it was just insane.
Yeah.
And then Jumbo's in Lima, their big spring first of the year show. They do 2 or 3 a year, and it's a 3-day now, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that 17th, 18th, 19th of January. So couple of multi-day shows in January, and then a couple of back-to-backs, Lima and Grove City. And so, yeah, it's going to be a busy year, and I would really like to not do 40 shows plus next year, but we'll see how it goes.
You're addicted to this. This has been a great year, and this has been the Ball Crunch of the Sports Podcast.
For the Sports Collector.
Bye.
Peace.